is that this is a television show famous for giant monsters.
Yeah.
We're talking about prehistoric titans leveling entire cities. Yet, the critical consensus is that this might be the absolute best episode of the season so far, and it features almost zero monster action.
I mean, it is a massive structural gamble for a MonsterVerse property to just sideline the monsters.
Yeah, it's a huge risk.
But the reason it succeeds is that it shifts the scale of destruction. We aren't watching a city crumble. We're watching the architecture of a family and of an organization just completely collapse.
Wow, yeah.
The episode argues that human secrets and generational trauma can actually be far more destructive and honestly far more insidious than a titan wiping out a bridge.
Because you can rebuild a bridge.
Exactly. Rebuilding a shattered reality is much harder.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the show does give us a taste of that literal titan threat before plunging us into all the human wreckage.
It does, right at the top.
We pick up exactly where the previous episode left off. Keiko and Shaw have barely survived Titan X, which just completely annihilated a dock on Santa Soledad.
It's just pure chaos.
Total chaos.
Yeah.
The monster heads back out to sea and is being trailed by this massive, terrifying swarm of what we now know are called scarabs.
Those vicious little orblings?
Yeah, they're awful. But that sequence establishes the stakes immediately.
It does. It reminds the audience of the visceral, just overwhelming physical threat of nature that humanity is up against. The Titans are a force that simply cannot be reasoned with.
But it's the human reaction to that overwhelming threat that really sets the tone for everything that follows.
Right, because Keiko is a scientist at her core.
Exactly. So, surrounded by all this destruction, she does what a scientist does. She pulls out her camera to gather data. She manages to snap a few pictures of Titan X.
But the local villagers who just survived this attack, they absolutely panic at the sight of the camera.
They aggressively demand that she hand it over. They are terrified that if she exposes the existence of this monster to the rest of the world, it will somehow doom their town.
And if we look at the psychology of that moment, it's a localized manifestation of profound denial.
Oh.
They believe that if the broader world doesn't see the monster, maybe the consequences won't reach them. It's the human mind trying to assert control over a situation where it has absolutely none.
Think about what you would do in that situation. I was trying to wrap my head around this mindset. And imagine discovering a massive buzzing hornet's nest right in the middle of your living room.
Oh, man.
Hundreds of hornets just swarming around your coffee table. But you refuse to call an exterminator because you're terrified the city will come in, find some code violations, and condemn your entire house.
That is exactly it.
So you just sit on the couch, pretending the hornets aren't there, hoping they don't sting you, because the cure feels scarier than the disease.
The mechanism behind that behavior is risk assessment warped by trauma. You are choosing a known, immediate, and highly dangerous threat over the unknown disruption of an outside solution.
Right.
The villagers know the monster just destroyed their dock, but they fear the systemic destruction that comes with global attention even more.
I am genuinely stuck on whether they are making the wrong call, though.
Really?
Yeah, because in the context of this universe, where massive government agencies like Monarch exist and tend to bulldoze everything and everyone in their path, part of me thinks hiding the truth might actually be a valid survival strategy for these people.
Like they're protecting themselves from the bureaucracy.
Exactly. If Monarch shows up, their town becomes a militarized quarantine zone forever.
What's fascinating here is that the villagers' fear of outside intervention is entirely justified by history. We've seen the catastrophic collateral damage when Monarch or the military gets involved.
Exactly.
But where their strategy becomes a fatal flaw is the illusion of containment. The villagers actually believe they can control the narrative of a 100-foot titan by simply destroying a single roll of film.
Which is crazy when you say it out loud.
It is a microcosm of the broader institutional arrogance of Monarch itself. Monarch tries to control the Titans, to keep them classified behind red tape, to manage these unmanageable forces of nature.
And the villagers are just doing the exact same thing on a smaller, desperate scale.
Right. And the reality is you cannot put a lid on a Titan. The truth, like the monster, is too big to stay hidden.
Which Keiko and Shaw understand perfectly. They manage this brilliant escape to get out of the mob situation.
Yeah, that was smart.
They run into the forest, lure the panicked villagers away from the main path, and then deliberately leave the camera behind for them to find.
But they leave it with a completely blank roll of film inside.
They let the villagers think they won while keeping the actual photographic evidence safe.
It introduces the central paradox of the episode right at the start. They are deploying a lie in order to protect the truth.
And that desperate need to manage the truth, to try and control who knows what, pushes us straight into the present-day storyline.
With Tim?
Yes, Tim, one of our main modern-day protagonists, realizes that the official Monarch channels are failing spectacularly, so he goes rogue.
He sneaks Keiko, Shaw, Hiroshi, and Kentaro into the neon-lit chaos of Shibuya in Tokyo.
And his plan is to take Hiroshi's old Titan phone, the very device Hiroshi used to accidentally summon Godzilla last season, and modify the hardware.
He wants to make it mimic that scarab signal we saw earlier.
Right. They want to proactively lure Titan X away from populated areas before it causes a massive massacre.
It's an incredibly proactive maneuver. Tim and his team are stepping outside the paralyzing, slow-moving bureaucracy of Monarch to actually save lives.
But every action in this universe has an equal and opposite reaction.
Exactly. By stepping out of the official system, they make themselves targets of it.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because we have to look at the mechanics of why Tim was forced to go rogue in the first place.
Monarch hasn't just become bureaucratic.
No, it has been fundamentally compromised from the inside. Director Barris issues an order for Tim to detain Keiko and Shaw immediately.
But the real gut punch is that Barris brings in Jason Trisup.
The head of special projects at a tech corporation called Apex Cybernetics.
Yeah, and just hands him the keys to Outpost 18's operations. Apex Cybernetics represents a massive ideological shift.
How so?
Whenever a private, profit-driven corporation like Apex enters the narrative, the philosophy moves away from Monarch's flawed attempt to, understand and contain the Titans.
Oh, to a much darker goal.
Right. Exploit and weaponize the Titans.
So May sees this corporate takeover happening, and she makes what she believes is a brilliant tactical play. She accepts a job offer at Apex Cybernetics.
But her true intention is to act as a double agent for Tim's rogue team.
Yeah, she thinks she's infiltrating the belly of the beast to gather intel.
Right.
But then the show delivers this incredible twist. May hacks into the live Apex security footage to see what they're up to, and she realizes Apex has been watching them this entire time.
It's chilling.
And while Tim's team is sitting in Tokyo planning to modify the Titan phone, Apex soldiers have already swooped in, bypassed all their security, and stolen the device right out from under them.
The dramatic irony is thick. May believes she is the unseen observer, the spy gathering intelligence from the shadows.
But the reality is that she and the rest of the team are the subjects in the petri dish.
Exactly.
Imagine you are playing a high-stakes game of chess. You are sweating over every move, carefully advancing your pawns into enemy territory, feeling like an absolute strategic genius.
Mm-hmm.
And then you finally look up from the pieces and realize your opponent isn't just playing the game. They own the room, they built the table, and they manufactured the chessboard you're playing on.
That is the level of defeat May experiences in that moment.
It's devastating.
Then the reason that chessboard dynamic is so deeply unsettling is how closely it mirrors real-world tech surveillance.
Oh, absolutely.
Think about the devices you carry with you every day. Apex isn't terrifying because they use brute physical force. They are terrifying because they weaponize observation.
They control the digital infrastructure.
Right. In a narrative dominated by towering prehistoric beasts that can crush buildings, the human villains manage to feel equally oppressive because they are always 3 steps ahead.
They control the flow of information.
Yeah, exactly. It creates the suffocating atmosphere where the heroes realize their private spaces aren't private at all.
And that digital, cold corporate observation sets up an incredible contrast to what happens next. Because the team only realizes the Titan phone has been stolen by Apex when they need to reference the original blueprints to modify it.
So Hiroshi sends Keiko and Shaw to his private office.
Right, to dig through his files for those technical documents. So Keiko is in this very intimate personal space searching for technical blueprints, and instead she unearths a completely different, devastating kind of secret.
We move from the cold, calculated betrayal of a corporation to the messy, intimate blindness of a family.
Keiko finds a hidden stash of photographs in the office. And these aren't just old memories, they are definitive proof that Cate and Kentaro, 2 of our main characters, have different mothers. When Keiko confronts Hiroshi with the photos, the facade just crumbles. He breaks down and confesses that he loved both women simultaneously. He maintained 2 entirely separate secret families running parallel lives hidden from everyone he loved.
The sheer logistical and emotional weight of maintaining that kind of deception is staggering.
I can't even imagine.
Hiroshi compartmentalized his entire existence, and The fallout of a betrayal that profound doesn't just impact the people directly involved, It bleeds into the next generation.
Which the episode illustrates perfectly by immediately cutting from Hiroshi's tearful confession in Tokyo over to his daughter Cate in San Francisco.
Right.
Cate was supposed to have a quiet, grounding evening. She had plans to go out to dinner with her mother, her stepfather, and some former teachers, a safe, normal, domestic setting.
But at the very last minute, she diverts her cab.
She abandons the safe dinner and goes to a loud, chaotic local gay bar to meet up with an ex-girlfriend. A short-haired blonde woman that Callie Hanna's review simply refers to as Blondie.
The mechanics of that choice are pure avoidance. She is actively running from the familial setting because family represents deception and pain in her subconscious.
So she seeks out the opposite.
Exactly. She seeks out an environment that is volatile, loud, and emotionally detached.
And the sensory details of this scene are so deliberate. They're in this bar, surrounded by blinding, flashing EDM lights. The bass is vibrating through the floor. They're dancing. They share a kiss. It is a complete sensory overload.
And she's using that overload as a tool to drown out her internal silence.
But then, a Monarch safety alert suddenly blares through the bar speakers. The music cuts. Everyone freezes.
And Kate's reaction is deeply revealing.
She doesn't take cover. She dismisses the danger entirely, and then she starts spiraling into this intense narcissistic guilt, trying to claim the alert is somehow her fault.
Yeah, Blondie looks at her, sees the absolute chaotic state of her mental health, tells Cate she needs to get professional help, and just walks out.
Leaves her completely alone on the dance floor.
And that abandonment, even by a casual ex-girlfriend, acts as a catalyst. It strips away the sensory distraction and forces Cate to face the silence she was running from.
She wanders out into the night and ends up at a gated-off G-Day wreck site near the Golden Gate Bridge.
For those who need a quick refresher, G-Day was the catastrophic event when Godzilla attacked San Francisco, leveling huge portions of the city.
Right. So Cate is standing alone at the fence of this ruined site, having intense, debilitating flashbacks to the destruction and her previous traumas until she physically collapses from the exhaustion and the sheer weight of her guilt.
Yeah.
Now, Fandom Wire's review heavily praises the writing in this sequence. The reviewer notes how refreshing it is that the show allows its queer characters to be just as messy, complex, and fundamentally flawed as the street characters.
Avoiding the trap of putting marginalized characters on an idealized pedestal, it is a critical aspect of genuine character development. Cate isn't struggling because of her identity. She is struggling because she is a profoundly traumatized human being navigating the aftermath of a monster attack and a shattered family.
I hear that, but as a viewer watching her actions, I'm getting really frustrated with Cate here.
Really?
I feel like she crosses the line from trauma victim to just using her past as a shield to treat people horribly. She uses Blondie for a distraction. She abandons her mother at dinner. She creates constant chaos. At what point do we stop giving her a pass? Is her trauma a valid explanation, or has it just become an excuse?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, what we are observing isn't just Kate's individual moral failing. We are watching the mechanics of generational trauma operating in real time.
Okay, how so?
Look at where she collapses. Right in front of the physical wreckage of G-Day. That rubble is visible, but the emotional wreckage inside her is invisible, and more importantly, it's inherited.
Oh, wow.
Trace the parallel commitment issues running straight down her family line. You have the grandmother, Keiko, who kept massive secrets. You have the father, Hiroshi, who built 2 fake lives. And now the daughter, Cate, who abandons dinners and pushes partners away.
They all run.
They all compartmentalize. They all build walls. Cate isn't consciously using trauma as an excuse. She is operating the only way she knows how, deploying the broken survival mechanisms passed down through her bloodline.
That framing actually changes how I view her collapse at the G-Day site. She's staring at a physical manifestation of her own internal inherited state, ruined, blocked off, and frozen in time.
Exactly.
But that brings us to the root of that family tree. The episode finally takes us to the original sin that started this entire cycle of running and hiding.
Back in Tokyo.
Right. After Hiroshi confesses his double life, he asks Keiko a question. And the review notes this moment is delivered with just gut-wrenching raw emotion by actor Taki Hirohira.
It's a powerful scene.
Hiroshi, through tears, asks what could possibly cause a man to abandon an 11-year-old boy. He's talking about his father, Bill.
That question reveals the core wound of Hiroshi's life. He's been carrying the crushing weight of that abandonment for decades.
Right.
He assumed he wasn't enough to make his father stay, which shaped his own inability to commit to a single family.
And the show finally gives us the answer. We flash back to the younger Keiko and Shaw. They're taking shelter from a violent storm in an isolated abandoned cabin.
The adrenaline is high.
Yeah, they are dressing each other's wounds, they're bickering. They explicitly insist that a previous kiss they shared was just a mistake.
And then the tension breaks.
And they end up having passionate sex right there in the cabin.
It is a moment of intense, desperate connection forged in the crucible of survival. But it's a connection that shatters every vow they've made to the man they both love.
Because the very next morning, the storm clears, and Bill arrives by boat to rescue them. He runs up, completely relieved, and embraces Keiko.
And over his shoulder,
Keiko and Shaw share this silent, agonizing look. In that fraction of a second, they agree to bury the truth. They decide to never tell Bill what happened.
Sometime later, Keiko even writes a letter and sends it to Shaw's home in D.C.
Yeah, she writes that while she loves him, and in another lifetime they could have been together, Bill has her heart. And learning the truth of their betrayal would absolutely destroy him.
Which is the ultimate devastating, tragic irony of this entire narrative. She constructs the secret specifically to protect him from pain.
So what does this all mean? To me, Keiko's letter wasn't just a piece of paper. It was a delayed fuse emotional bomb.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
She armed the explosive the day she wrote those words, put it in an envelope, and it just sat there, the timer ticking down for years.
Yeah.
And when it finally detonated, it obliterated the family in its blast radius.
Yeah.
But the person who actually lit the fuse, Keiko, wasn't even in the room to see the explosion.
That analogy perfectly captures the delayed devastation, because the episode then jumps forward to 1962. Young Hiroshi, just 11 years old, is rummaging through Shaw's old boxes looking for something to sharpen his pocket knife. Bill is sitting right there with him, and they are having this beautiful, tender father-son moment. They're talking about how much they both miss Keiko and Shaw. It is a picture of domestic peace. Then Bill sends young Hiroshi downstairs to get a glass of milk.
And while he's gone...
While the boy is gone, Bill starts cleaning up the items Hiroshi pulled out of the box, and he finds it. He finds the hidden letter Keiko wrote to Shaw. He reads it. The episode ends right there on his face.
The exact moment the bomb goes off.
And it definitively answers Hiroshi's desperate question in the present day. Bill didn't abandon an 11-year-old boy because he lacked love for his son.
Right.
He didn't leave because Hiroshi wasn't enough. He fled because in the span of 30 seconds, his entire foundational reality was ripped out from under him.
Everything he knew.
His marriage, his deepest friendship, the entire narrative of his adult life, it was all revealed to be an intricately constructed lie. He couldn't stay in that house and look at his son because every single memory he had was suddenly tainted by that secret.
It completely reframes Hiroshi's entire existence. He spent decades harboring this deep sense of inadequacy, eventually mirroring a trauma by building his own secret lives, all stemming from an event he didn't even understand the origin of.
The narrative structure of this episode is a masterclass in thematic alignment.
Truly.
We spend all our time as viewers looking at the surface, waiting for the titans to emerge from the ocean, watching the corporate espionage of Apex. But the real, lasting devastation is happening underneath.
In the quiet, silent spaces between the people we trust the most.
Exactly.
It is incredible. Callie Hanna's review was spot on in giving this a 9 out of 10. You absolutely do not need a monster stomping through a city skyline to feel the crushing impact of a disaster.
Not at all.
The emotional shockwaves in this episode hit just as hard, if not harder, than a physical one. And it really makes you scrutinize the whole concept of protection. We constantly tell ourselves that hiding the truth is a shield.
Yeah, Keiko thought she was shielding Bill from heartbreak.
Hiroshi thought he was shielding his two families from each other. The villagers on Santa Soledad thought they were shielding their town from government interference.
But in every single instance, the lie metastasizes and becomes the very thing that tears their world apart.
It's the paradox of containment. Whether it's Monarch trying to contain a titan behind a wall of top-secret classification, or Keiko trying to contain her infidelity in a letter tucked away in a dusty box in D.C.
The pressure always builds.
The truth is a fundamental force of nature, just like the monsters themselves.
Yeah.
Eventually it breaks out, and the longer you try to hold it back, the more violent and uncontrollable the rupture is when it finally happens.
Which is something for you to think about long after this deep dive ends. Think about your own life, your own family tree. How many unaddressed truths? How many quiet generational secrets are compounding over time in your own background.
How are those hidden histories shaping your behaviors, your relationships, your irrational fears in ways you might not even realize?
Are you building walls to protect yourself, only to realize you've locked yourself inside with the very thing you were running from?
We inherit so much more than physical traits like eye color or a genetic predisposition to a disease. We inherit the silences of our parents and grandparents.
And those silences will absolutely dictate our actions if we don't find the courage to shine a light on them.
Which leaves us with a lingering question as we look toward the rest of this season. If Apex Cybernetics now possesses the Titan phone, and they have the technological capability to watch every single move our heroes make.
Are the giant monsters just a massive, terrifying distraction?
Exactly. Are the Titans simply a smokescreen for the ultimate threat, which is human weaponization, corporate greed, and the surveillance state?
And more importantly,
what happens when the very secrets we keep to ensure our survival become the exact things that guarantee our destruction? It really makes you wonder if being locked out, like that Cloudflare error blocking our path at the very beginning of this journey, isn't a digital glitch at all, but the defining feature of the human condition. Until next time, keep digging.